This is the Mamiya RZ67 Medium Format monster camera. It weighs an absolute ton, and to take it out on location shoot is almost impossible unless you've been working out and are reasonably fit, like I am. It's a proper lump to carry about, especially on a tripod, but it is an awesome bit of kit and fun to shoot. And remember the old Windows XP desktop that looked like Teletubby Land? Well, yep, that was taken on one of these bad boys. And I bet Charlie Boy didn't whinge about the weight and just got on with the job. Good old school photographers, eh? This camera was kindly gifted to the channel a few years back by Kevin, and I've always used a 645 back with it, but just the other day Kevin sent me a 6x7 back for the camera, and I'm as excited as finding a kebab shop after a night out on the sherbets. And if you haven't already seen my video about the Mamiya RZ67, I'll stick a link in the description and also a tile at the end of this video for you to hit. So my arsenal today is the Mamiya RZ67 with, wait for it, two backs, a 645 and a 6x7. I've got two lenses, a 90mm Mamiya C-Core lens and a 180mm Mamiya C-Core lens as well. I'm going to be shooting Kodak Tri-X 400. I've also got a cable release and I've got a light meter, a Sekonic L508. The trouble is I've got no clue where I'm going or what I want to shoot. So the best way to do this is just jump in the car, drive around and see what tickles me fancy. Hopefully everything will be tickety-boo. We'll get back in the darkroom later on, do some jiggery-pokery and come out of a nice print. So stick around, come out in the car with me and we'll hopefully find some nice scenes to photograph. Right, so I'm in my car, put the safety belt on and I ain't got a clue where I'm going. Turn the old engine over, off we go. I ain't got a clue where I'm going to go. Hopefully I'll find somewhere to take some pictures, and what I'm going to do is just drive around and see how many cars I can smash. No, not really. I'm just going to drive around and see what I can find. And sometimes I do this if I've got, you know, not inspiration, but no idea of where I want to go and what I want to shoot. Sometimes I just get in the car, see where it takes me. And it's like all of us. The trouble is wherever you live, you always get bored with the same areas. Recently, you guys know that I was in Bahrain, and I found everything interesting. Everything to me was photogenic, you know. So I'm just going to drive around and see what I can find. I'll turn the GoPro off now because it's staring at me in the face and I can't really see down these lanes too well. I'll see you guys in a bit. Let's see what we can get. And one of the other things I need to think about is what sort of compositions do I want? Do I want any scapes? Do I want any people? Do I want any street stuff? Do I want any close-up stuff? I'm now thinking in my mind, I wouldn't mind taking some photographs of stuff close up. I don't know, railings, stuff like that. You see a lot of that in hotels. If you, excuse me, if you go to hotels or if you're out and about in cafe shops or whatever, you'll see framed prints that look nice where they're sitting. And often they're like close up of railings or stone or something. And it's just a nice picture, just makes a nice looking print. And at the end of the day, it's still photography, you know. I don't have to go out and make the best picture ever or try and change the world with my pictures. That's never going to happen. But it's just nice for me as a photographer, especially a film photographer, to go out, shoot some film on these old cameras and enjoy myself. And if I do get a really nice photograph at the end of it, that's just a bonus, you know. 2 rolls of film and see what we can get. I'm looking forward to trying that 6x7 back. But as it stands at the moment, I'm just driving around and see what tickles me fancy. Oh, tickles me fancy. Titter, titter. So I found this old church. Let's park up, let's see what we can find. I've just found an old church. I haven't been to this church before. Let's get the gear out and I'll show you what I found. It's an old church. I'm not really interested in graves and stuff like that. Let's have a look. These old gates, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. Close-up stuff that you find in hotels. These sort of things. Today the sky, there's not much going on up there. If I was to expose for these gates, that's going to have to compromise. I've got no lighting. The lighting's pretty flat. You can see all around today it's pretty flat. Even the GoPro's picking up the sky and not the gates. If I come down to the gates, you can see now the sky's gone a lot lighter. But but I like these, this old post here, look, you know, and you might think it's boring, but these can actually make nice prints. So I'm going to start off by shooting the 6-7 back. What's that going to give me? 10 photographs. I've got my tripod. Let's set up a composition, take the first shot. So I've just advanced the camera to the first frame. With this camera I can choose to shoot landscape mode or twist this back around for portrait mode. I'm more likely going to go into portrait mode. And I'm going to get a photograph of this wall here. So I've got a bit of wall and a little bit of that railing. The light isn't that great, so I'll probably just overexpose by one stop. The light's not that great. I think the light is better around the other side, but there's no way I can get through this. So, but I like the idea of that photograph. If I take these photographs here, I'm going to get a lot of crap in the background, or maybe a lot of sky, which won't look that great. So I'm just going to get a bit of that brickwork in and see how we get on. So hopefully you guys, just trying to push the GoPro inside so you can see what I'm doing. The composition I've got is some of the gate posts there, just coming off from the left hand side, and some of the railing as well. So basically I've got a little bit of this showing, some of this, and some of this as well, kind of like in that sort of composition, what you can see on the GoPro there. Let's take the shot. First of all, just going to do a quick meter up, point it back down towards the ground a little bit more, give me more exposure. So f8, 1/25 of a second. First shot done. So I'm up at the church now. Look how small this door is. Look how short people were back in the day. I think this church is around about the 16th century, but look at that. And I ain't that tall. I'm only 5'10" or something like that. But I just like the door knocker, you know. I like the knocker and all the stud work. I'm going to get a nice close-up of that. On here we've got some inscribing stuff from the 1800s. We've got some people who've inscribed their name in this little rock here. 1842 that looks like. Wow. So I'm all set up. I did initially compose it to go straight on, you know, to get the camera straight on to the knocker and the studs, but I've decided to just bring it over to the side a little bit and look up slightly. So just did a little tiny bit of light metering, f5.6 this time, at 1/25 of a second. So let's take this shot. And again, hopefully you can see the composition I've got. So it's just at a slight angle, slight wonk. And there's also some cobwebs and a little bit of crap on top of the knocker. I don't want to rub that off. I could do, but I don't want to. It just makes it look, you know, more authentic, I suppose. I don't want to tart it up in any way, just shoot it as is. So f5.6 this time, 1/25 of a second, take the shot. So there's so much here at this church for me to photograph, and just from getting stuck in the traffic down there a little bit, I've managed to look over and think, hang on a minute, there's some scope over there. And I've never been to this church before, certainly not taken photographs of it. But there's so much here I've realised to take photographs of. I'll show you around. You see, over there is gravestones. Right, and there's a big cemetery as well, goes on for ages. I'm not interested in all that. I'm just not interested in photographing, you know, remembrance stones. It doesn't do nothing for me. But look at this old bench. I don't know how old this is, but that's proper old. I like that. We've got some beautiful stonework. We've got these lovely steps here that obviously go up to the bell tower of the church. The door's open. I don't know if the church is open. Let's have a look. If it is, oh, the church is open. It's a bit dark for the GoPro, but wow, okay. Round here you've got this old Tudor house. Look at this. This old Tudor house. There's a remembrance memorial there. God rest their souls. Look at this old Tudor house. I don't think I've ever been walking around here. I've driven around here, but I've not walked around here before. And this is the church there. That's not the time. That clock's duff. But I've got a few more things to photograph here. Maybe that old building as well. Because it's so cold outside, my hands are starting to go numb. And don't forget, I'm actually vlogging as well as doing photography, so I'm out here for a longer period than I would be if I was just photographing. So I'm starting to get cold. So I've come inside the church, and there's these beautiful windows. So I'll be able to get some really nice window light shots. Maybe these pillars, I don't know, I'll have a walk around. So I'm looking around the church, and not much is really taking my fancy in this particular church. Maybe you guys sit there and see some compositions all day long, but at the moment I'm struggling to find any except these lovely pews with the numbers on. Now if I can get quite close to these, maybe that might make a nice photograph. You've got some lovely window light, if I get out of the way, bouncing off of them, but the trouble is it all goes dark in the background. So over this one here we've got this pillar, which is, you can see, might look quite nice against that piece of pew with number 10 on it. Just so we've got something also coming into the photograph, you know. So I'm going to give that a little try. So I've decided to go for number 11, and just in the background I've got that window and I've got a nice light running across these pews from that window. So I've got a lot of information in the photograph, but predominantly this nice piece of woodwork here with the number 11 and the little rose emblem inside. I don't think it's Tudor rose, but just a pretty pattern, I suppose. So I've just done some quick incident readings and it's come back at f11 at 1 second. I want f11 so I can get as much depth of field in as I can. And 1 second, I don't want to go beyond that because I'll start going into reciprocity failures and I'm not really into getting there. I can do what I need with 1 second and f11. Now I've got the cable release on this camera. You'll hear I need to open up the mirror because the shutter is inside the lens itself, which is why the cable release is connected to the lens. So once I've opened up the mirror, dark slide out, open the mirror up. Now I can take the shot with the cable release. 1 second, job done. There's, I found this old piano. Oh, it's stuck. Right, take a picture of this piano. I've purposely composed this because it's looking down on the piano. Below the piano, underneath the piano, has got this lovely old tiled floor, and also the light is coming from that window striking the piano. So I've got a little tiny bit of bellows extensions to think about. Probably, I don't know, maybe half a stop. Yeah, probably about half a stop. So I've just done some metering. I want to shoot this at f22 so I can get some of those tiles on the floor and also some of these flat looking keys on the piano. See how this comes out. Let's see how this comes out. 3 second exposure. 4 seconds, sorry. Yeah, hopefully I've done my metering right. It just goes to prove, you know, I'd never have thought about going into that church. I've never been in that church before. And it's not far away from where I live either. So just by milling around in the car, getting stuck in a bit of traffic back there, I managed to get some photographs. So off we go again. I don't know where I'm going. Just going to drive until I see something, get out the car and take the pictures. I could have spent a lot longer in that church, to be honest with you, but there's no point. I took a few photographs. Let's move on, see what else I can find. Well, the sun's just come out, which is nice to see. And I'm at a place which is called the Dover. I've been here a few times before, also on the channel. But I'm looking, thinking, is there anything over here that I can take a picture of that I haven't really done before? A different idea, different concept maybe. So this is all part of the thinking process of photography, you know, without having a plan. I've got no plan. I ain't got a clue what I'm taking photographs of, but in my mind I'm just thinking, well, if I'm going to go to the same places that I've been before, try and look for something different, some different composition that, you know, or subject that you haven't taken before. Whenever I've come down here, it's often been beachy scenes or boats. So I've just parked up over here. I thought I'd come and take some pictures of some of these reeves of woodwork that's going on. Might make a nice photographs. Have a look. There's more over there as well. It's quite a nice place where I am. It's called a Dover. It's just like National Trust. Oh, there you go. So look, I've got my camera set up. Come over here. I've taken pictures of those little beach huts before, but from over there. But here I've got these reeves in the way. I've never seen this shot before. Got these reeves in the way and those beach huts in the background. Bit of metering. And we'll take the shot. I'm going to be doing it in landscape mode. It's quite a nice scene. So I've just swapped the lenses. I've now got the 180mm lens on, so I can get a bit closer to some of the subjects that are over there. I'll show you what I've got my eyes on this time. And it's just this old fence with this wood post here. And if you look through the viewfinder, you can see how close that lens is getting me. And that's the composition that I've got. Oh, I've shot this place enough times. I took 2 photographs over there. I'm just going to walk around here repeating the stuff that I've done in the past, so I'm off. I'm going to find somewhere else to go. There's a car coming. Ah, shit on it. So I'm driving back and I've just come through this road where there's like a harbour and loads of boats. The water is really calm. It's like a mill pond out there. just looking over my shoulder, some lovely reflections going on. Look at this awesome bike. I'm going to take a photograph of that, come all the way through the seat onto the handles and see what we can get. There's my camera all set up, and there's the bike. So I've never been down here before. I've come right along the pontoon. There's loads of fishing boats around here. It stinks, absolutely stinks of fish. But I've got that 180mm lens on there, and I'm looking over there towards them little boats. Got some nice reflections going on in portrait mode. Should make a nice photograph. So that's it. All that whole roll's done on the 6x7. That's 10 shots that I got out of it. I've left the camera bag in the car up there in the car park, so I'll have to go back to get the 645 back. But I'm going to stick around here and I'll show you guys the photographs that I get around this little tiny marina on the 645. I'm not going to bring the GoPro. I'm just going to do my photographs, concentrate on the photography. Oh, there's a big fish. That's an eel. Look at that thing. How did he get out? I wonder what that flapping noise was behind me. There's an eel sitting in that boat. It must have just, I don't know, well, I ain't a fisherman, I don't know. Right. Oh man, it was getting colder and colder, so I stayed on that harbour and shot the rest of the 645 back of the Kodak Tri-X. So I've done 2 rolls of film, one on 6x7, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, and also 645, which I'm also looking to seeing as well. So stick around guys, when I get back I'm going to develop the film. I'll show you guys the negatives that I've got, so compare them as well, side by side for the size. There's only one problem, is I'm using Kodak D76, which is a fantastic developer. I've got 3 packets of the stuff kindly given to the channel, but the first 2 packets that I used were coming out, giving my legs thin at normal times. So I had to learn by my mistakes on that one, or not mistakes, but learn by it and add more time to my development. So I'm now thinking to myself, I've got a problem with this Kodak 76 batch, or is it me? So on this last batch that I've got, which is a 3.75, a powder that makes 3.75 millilitres, 3.75 litres, sorry, of developer stock solution. This time, instead of using tap water, I used distilled, not distilled, but deionized water, pretty much similar. I checked my thermometers, make sure they were working. So I mixed 3 litres and put the powder in at 55 degrees, 55 to 58 I think it says, brain freeze, just driving. Yeah, so I mixed that up, make sure it all fully dissolves first, and then I put in at the same temperature water the remaining 0.75 litres to make up my 3.75. I let it cool down, and then I did a quick test, a leader test on some Kodak Tri-X 400. Oh boy, they were thin again. I could see the leader was just, the leader of the film, as I looked up, I could see pretty much through it. It was like a dark, not even a dark pair of sunglasses, you know. So I thought, okay, I must have a batch problem. If anyone's had this before, let me know. But not all is lost, because all I need to do is just add more time to the developer when I'm developing, add more time to my development when I'm developing the film. And to do that, what I did with the 645 roll back there, I purposely overexposed one frame. I looked up at the sky and let it go for 8 seconds, wide aperture, and I should get a completely blank frame, but full of density, and like a leader would be, you know, totally overexposed. So I'm going to develop the 645 roll first, with probably about 20%, maybe 30 added time to compensate for the developer that I think is duff, and see from that leader where I need to go for the 6x7 7 negatives, the 6x7 roll of film that I shot, which I'll develop after that. So it's a trial and error. It might work, but from that leader that I shot on the 645 from that overexposed frame, I should be able to see the density of it. And if I could just about see through it when I hold it up to a light indoors, then I'll be happy. I don't want it completely black. If it's completely black, I can't see through it. That means my highlights on my films, I've overdeveloped. That means my highlights on my films are going to be completely blown out. So I just need a little tiny bit of density on it where I can see through, which would be great. So we'll see when we get back what happens. Hopefully they'll come out all right, but I've always said if they don't, I've had a nice time walking around. I haven't been in that church before, so I saw that church, and I haven't been to the right at the end of that harbour before, so that was quite interesting as well. And that poor hill, some of you might be thinking, why didn't I jump in the boat and pick it up and throw it back in the sea? It's not my job to do that. Stand by me, you know. So here's the negatives here on the light box. You can see this is the 645. Look at the considerably sized difference with the 6x7. I only get 10 shots though on a 6x7, and I get 15 on the 645. So the time for Kodak 400 Tri-X with D76 was 9.5 minutes. I got that from the massive dev chart. So I went 13 minutes on this, and the overexposed part wasn't as dense as I'd like it to have been. I could still see through it looking up at the lights, and in fact if I put my mobile phone light underneath, you can see it's not as dense as it should be. So and I can tell that as well because my skies aren't that dense. So what I did, this was 13 minutes, so I went 100%. So instead of 9.5 minutes, I went 18 minutes, sorry, just under 100%. I went 18 minutes. Like I told you, that developer's coming out a bit weak for some reason. So these are the 645s. They come out really nice, but I could just, the sky I know should have been a little bit denser, like the 6x7 ones where I've developed them slightly longer. So I'll just have to do some jiggery pokery, a little bit of playing around with that developer if I want to keep using it. And I may as well, because, you know, developers not cheap. So the negatives came out well after adding more time to the development, and I'd love to hear from any of you in the comments if you've also had trouble with Kodak D76. I've used it loads of times in the past and have never had a problem, so maybe this is just a duff batch. But I had a good run out today shooting the new 6.7 back, and I've got to say a massive thanks to Kevin for sending it to me. So Kevin, if you're watching, thanks very much. So from today's shoot, there is a few negatives that I'd like to print, but not in this video, just running out of time. And it's gone on too long already, so I hope I haven't bored any of you rambling on in the car. My favourite photograph from today was probably the motorcycle. I liked everything about it, the tonality and the composition, so maybe that's one for my wall collection at home in the future. As always guys, thanks for watching the videos that I make, and a massive thanks to those that support the channel on Patreon and also the YouTube members area, and I'll catch you next time.